Hello and welcome to the Krystal Archive podcast. This is episode number 17, recorded late Saturday night on March 29th, 2008. Welcome once again. I'm Dwight, your host for the Krystal Archive podcast, and we've got a lot to cover in this humdinger of a podcast. So, I'm going to get started with what happened since the last episode, which would have been several months ago, hence why we have so much to do. Okay, since last time, I updated the Saurian Translator. Now, for those of you who don't know, the Saurian Translator is a program I wrote that translates between Saurian and English back and forth as you type on a website via JavaScript in a Web 2.0 style fashion. Saurian is the language used in the first part of Star Fox Adventures. It's a cipher language created by Rare to add some depth to the game. And I've been writing a translator for it ever since I learned how to do Perl, and I've since increased its ability and speed and all that stuff over the years, judging my programming skill against it. And, well, last time, or right after the last podcast was released, I made version 6. Version 6's goal was to be very, very efficient. Since I had already written pretty much all the features that I thought would be really useful in a translator, I decided to go strictly for efficiency this time. So I programmed it for about a month over the summer. I just tested everything I possibly could to find out what algorithm made the fastest program, and I just made it as fast as I possibly could. Anytime I found something that would make it slow, I'd adjust the program, and I found out about all kinds of crazy efficiency techniques that if you program you might have heard of, like reversing for loops, where you count backwards because that's actually a little bit more efficient than counting forward when dealing with a lot of things, such as a really long string. And I learned a little bit about Big O notation, something I didn't really fully understand back when I was learning about it in college, in my undergraduate college. And that is a measure of how fast things are in a computer-independent form. So if something takes a set amount of time, no matter what, it's always the same amount of time, that is called Big O1, constant time. It always takes the same amount of time to happen. Beyond that, there's things like linear and exponential growth and other kinds of things that determine how fast something is. Well, the previous version of the translator was quadratic time, which means that depending on how long something is, say the length of the string you're sending, the thing that you're trying to get translated, you take that number and you square it, and that's how long the program takes in general, relative to other types of schemes. So it was taking n squared amount of time, which is called quadratic time, I believe. This version, and the reason it took so long is because for every single character in the previous version, for every single character, it would check the character, and then it would check it against a list. So you had to find it in the input string, then take that character, check it against a translation string that had a corresponding position between English and Saurian characters, then do the transfer, then put it out to the output. So it had to do 2 searches to do one operation. Well, I made the program as fast as theoretically possible by changing it from quadratic time to linear time, which means a big O of n which means you take the length of the string, and that's how long it takes. So depending on the length of your string, it's not the squared time of the string, it's just the string's length of time. I hope that made much sense. Anyway, so what I did was I made it so that the actual character that you get from the input string would, through a simple mathematical operation, would instantly tell you what character needed to be output because of the nature of characters and numbers in computers, because really they're the same thing. Numbers are characters, it's just how you represent them. A number, say, and I don't know what they are, like say 90 would be a capital A, and so on. So you have to, so I just took the number, I translated the character into a number, then used that number to figure out where what character to get out of another string that was the Saurian translation that I needed, and then outputted that, and that made that operation constant time. So given a linear time of the length of the string that you're inputting, it becomes a linear operation. So at minimum, the program is twice as fast. And I tested this, and it was, and I tested it against various documents. Throughout the entire design process, I was using the U.S. Constitution's text to calculate times, and I had a timing script that it would tell me how long each time it took, and I could measure it between the old algorithm and the new algorithm. Well, now the new algorithm can do things like this, and here's what I've tested. Alright, so I use the U.S. Constitution, and it takes approximately 0.3 seconds to translate entirely to Soran. And that is really, really fast. Like the speed that you could blink your eye. Okay, and I also translated the entire text of the Bible, the Christian Bible, which is several thousand pages long, and it's over a megabyte if you actually store the text. And that took about, I believe, 29 seconds. But since Apple released a new Safari browser, their latest update has a massive JavaScript speed improvement. So I tested them again, and so the U.S. Constitution, I can't even measure how fast it goes. You can blink your eyes twice really fast, and that's how long it takes. It takes 15 to 19 seconds to translate the entire Bible, which is almost double the speed of the double speed. So it's really, really, really fast. So there's no real practical limit to how much text you can put in there. That as long as you don't freeze your browser, it will translate it, and it will translate it fast. And it's as fast as it's going to get unless you translate it into another language like C or C++. Of course, if it was in C or C++, then it would probably translate the entire Bible in like 3 seconds. So it's not even comparison. JavaScript is really slow. But with JavaScript, it can translate as you type. So that's a feature. One other thing that was unintended but happened because of the nature of the translation engine I used is now the Saurian translator fully supports Unicode. And that means that you can use non-English characters and all kinds of crazy characters beyond the standard 128 or 256. It can go right out to several thousand different types of characters, and it translates them perfectly. Of course, those characters that don't have a Saurian a counterpart will not be translated into a Saurian equivalent because there is no Saurian equivalent. It just goes straight through. But for regular English sentences, it works great, even with the intelligent proper noun detection on, which I did update, but it still has one error. I fixed one error from version 5 to version 6, and there's still one more error left to fix. It's not hard, I just haven't added it yet. So, the Saurian translator has been updated, and it's really, really, really fast. So, check that out whenever you get a chance if you haven't already. On to the next big thing that happened. I'm sad to say, Krystal is not in Brawl. Well, that's not entirely true. Krystal was in Brawl in a couple of ways. She has a trophy, not an assist trophy, but just a regular trophy. She has at least 2 stickers, probably 3 stickers, which are of course used for the story mode, the subspace emissary. And then on the Lilac Cruise level, if you use the down taunt move really fast on either Fox, Falco, or Wolf characters. Spoilers, sorry about that, but you probably played it already. It will show a little cutscene after a warp, and that cutscene may involve Krystal. Several of them do. So she's in there as a non-playable character, a trophy, and some stickers. It's kind of disappointing. Really, really bummed about that. But hey, you move on, right? Let's move on. Let's move on to the next thing. So the next thing that happened was I went through a bunch of fan art finally and posted them, and there's more fan art to come as soon as I can get around to it. I went to GDC, the Game Developers Conference 2008. That involved traveling to San Francisco and volunteering my time, about 20 hours worth, helping visitors and like scanning people, making sure the people who had breakfast approval, or they had to have the right badge to get breakfast or whatever, and if they didn't, I had to say, no, sorry, you can't have breakfast here, try the snack bar or whatever. And I had all the breakfast shifts. I didn't mind too much. I kind of asked for them, but not exactly. Anyway, that was interesting, and I got to see all kinds of game companies advertising new stuff, saw some new technologies, and I went to a couple talks about various things. One of them I went to 2 talks about that big game by coming from I believe EA called Spore, and it's a life simulation game. And I went to 2 talks. One of them was about how they did the music, and for several parts of the game, the music is entirely generated based on what planet you have. It generates the music, so there is no preset music for some parts. It just creates music, and it sounds good, and it's really clever how they made it. They basically made a programming language that its rules were based on the rules of music, and I'm no music expert. I know next to nothing about technical music theory. But if you program this thing in following music theory, and in some cases even breaking musical law, it still manages to create interesting output if you know what you're doing. And it was a relatively simple system, oddly enough. The other talk I went to was about Spore's content management system, where they just talked about how they're going to get things, which includes models, planets, characters, anything you make in Spore. It allows you to distribute it back to the Spore servers and send it down to other people. You can even make things like podcasts, but it's actually not podcast audio, it's content like your creatures or your spaceships or whatever you're creating in Spore. And if you just want to trade just a single item, they did another clever thing, which I'm starting to see in the computer industry today. Instead of giving you like a serial number that defines the nature of the file, they're giving you a single image file that contains a thumbnail of what you created, and encoded within that image is the actual data. It's so small they compressed it into an image, and then that image you can just trade like a trading card, and you just drag it into Spore, and there you have it. You have that spaceship or that creature. And they talked about all kinds of other interesting things. I went to 2 of the Nintendo talks. One of them was about how and why they made the Wii menu system, the channels, the way they did. One of the most interesting things was if you have a Wii, you may have noticed that there's a blue light whenever you get a new message or there's an update from Nintendo. It doesn't just pulse in a single pattern. It pulses in and then out, in, out, in, out, in, and then out, and then in, out, whatever, over and over, and it's in a certain pattern. And it turns out that pattern is an exact duplicate of the audio pattern of a certain Japanese bird, which is known in Japan for a really pretty voice. And that was one of the most interesting, clever things. They also talked about the things that they're going to be doing with downloadable content and WiiWare titles, and they announced one WiiWare title, and they announced that they were going to have pay-per-play type thing. You know, you buy a game and then you can buy additional content for that game. And so far they haven't really talked about any applications for that, but they did talk about buyable totally new games via WiiWare. So that was cool. And then the reason I was there at that Nintendo talk, is because it was the talk before the Super Smash Bros. Brawl character postmortem talk, and I wanted to make sure I had a seat since it was in the same room. So when that happened, that was the guy who worked on Brawl, Sakurai, came in, and they showed the intro for Brawl, and that was cool. And then when the video went off, Sakurai started doing this really deep, singing the song, the Latin lyrics really deeply and really powerfully over the speaker system, and then he said, I got a little carried away, sorry about that. And he wasn't actually speaking in English, but he had a translator, and they gave us little earpieces so you could hear in English. So that was pretty cool, and we went through the talk, and he talked about all kinds of things, how they selected characters, how they made the characters. One of my favorite parts was how they used 6-inch figures. I'm sorry, not 6-inch, 3-inch figures, or 6 to 3-inch figures. I don't remember. These little posable Japanese figures, and you buy them at these stores, and they're apparently becoming even more rare in Japan. But you buy these things, and you can pose them any way you want. But they pose realistically, so you can't like bend arms backwards too much beyond what a regular human can do. So what he did was, for every character, is he went through and took pictures of various poses as they were going through every single hundreds and hundreds of attacks. He would pose them through, like, here's the start animation, here's the mid animation, here's the end animation. For every character, from Samus to Kirby, he used those 6-inch figures, even if they weren't necessarily compatible in Kirby or Pikachu's case. So he did talk about what characters, what the character selection priorities were, and he wanted to pick characters that were well known, that had that would offer a good balance to the game and not create clones. He didn't specifically mention that, but that was the gist of it. And he just wanted to create something that was unique. And so my response is, of course, that if Krystal is not that, then I really don't know what she is. Maybe they just didn't consider her, or what. And he did reveal one, the most interesting thing, most of all, is that all the characters, all the playable characters, except for Sonic the Hedgehog, were decided upon on January 7th, 2005. And this was months before the very first game trailer was ever shown. And it was long before that suggestion box on the Japanese webpage. Which makes you wonder, why in the world did they have that suggestion box up there anyway? And my only conclusion is they weren't really looking for character information, or they were looking for what characters to disregard of their list. Because as we know, there were at least 4 characters that were originally going to be in Brawl, but were later removed because people have looked at the source code. I believe they were Trixie Kong, then there was Toon Zelda, and then a couple others. I don't remember exactly which ones. I think a couple of them were also from the old Super Smash Bros. Melee. But anyway, aside from Sonic, everyone was already picked. And I predicted that Sonic was the last character that they picked. He was not picked as playable until 2007, very late in the game. Which makes me believe further that he might have been the reason for the initial delay. So, no particular idea why exactly Krystal was not allowed in Brawl. Sakurai did not take any questions. They whisked him away out of the room as soon as the talk was over and didn't let anybody get near him. So, it's still a mystery. So the next thing, a new Krystal costume appeared. A Scry of the Clawcast fame, which we've mentioned on the podcast before. It's a furry discussion topic podcast. She had commissioned B3 Productions / Mascots to create a crystal fursuit for her, and she wore it for the very first time, her very first fursuit, at FWA, a furry convention back. Well, it happened the weekend I was at the Game Developers Conference in February. So I contacted her immediately as soon as I found out that she was the one who owned it, and I was surprised to realize that I had already known the person. So I contacted her, and an interview with her is still pending. I've already contacted her, and she has agreed to an interview. We just haven't decided on a time. When we do the interview, it'll be via Skype, and I'll put it probably on one of the next podcasts, maybe the next one. We'll see. So the next thing, there were several fan films that appeared, and there were several months of no Krystal fan films whatsoever. And then, or at least not the typical fan film that I would normally post on the site. There is one set of fan films which is made by a user who goes by Xana, and he takes a bunch of artists' Krystal fan art, and every week or so, or every 2 weeks, posts a video of a compilation of Krystal fan arts to music. And I don't post those because, one, they're not official material, they're fan arts, which is kind of a violation of not artist rights per se, but, well, artists wouldn't be too happy with it, I don't think. And besides that, the more important thing is it's not really video, it's a series of still images. I intentionally do not post fan films that are just still images. They need to be a majority, if not completely, moving video. So, after that happened, I got Brawl, Super Smash Bros. Brawl. I managed to get it a couple days early, and I got to play it, and it was really awesome. Nintendo's been initiated a new policy where non-employees, guests who are allowed to go into the store, which include me, cannot buy more than 2 of the same game in a year. This was instituted at the Brawl's launch. So if I had intended to buy more than more than 2 copies of Super Smash Bros. Brawl, I would not have been able to. But and I've already used my 2 copies for this year, so that's down the drain. And they have other restrictions, I think, on hardware as well. So that's interesting that they're restricting it now. I guess it's getting more popular. But nevertheless, I got to play Brawl. It's awesome. If you haven't played it yet, or if you don't have it, you need to get it immediately and play it. One of the first things I did when I got Brawl was, of course, I played through the Subspace Emissary story mode, and I was surprised at how long it took. 7 hours. And I was trying to play it fast. It took me 7 hours on very easy. So I managed to get all the way through it in about a week, and during that time I managed to get the Krystal Trophy and unlock all the characters, and with those I used them to create a Krystal Trophy video, which is a whole 3 minutes of me scrolling around Krystal in various angle positions and different rotation speeds, and going up and down and looking around, and all to Star Fox music. And needless to say, that video has caused quite a bit of controversy on YouTube. There's quite a few mean comments, but a few good ones too. And I've been responding to all of those. I also created a Lilat Cruise cameo video, which is just a compilation of all the Star Fox cameos in the Lilat Cruise level. I need to add a video for Snake and his codec, because he could call people and get information about Fox, Falco, and Wolf. And of course, the Krystal stickers. I don't have those yet. I don't think I have a single one. So whenever I do get those, I'll probably make a video about those too. And Of course, the Star Fox one is not specifically related to Krystal at all, so when I do post that one, it will go on Star Fox Online, one of my other websites. So, the next thing is I removed the Shoutbox from the Krystal Archive. Now, for those of you who don't know, and apparently there were quite a few who did not, back when I first released the Krystal Archive version 2, I believe that was in January 2006. It was a long, long time ago. Long before version 3. I posted a link to a external system that lets you comment on a web page. I had the option of adding it to the web page so that you can just see people's comments as you're reading the page. You can click and type a response or whatever, and it just allowed people to give instant feedback to the website. But since it was not hosted on my server, it was a service, I could not make it go fast enough, so I decided to put it as an external link. And I did, and a couple people used it, but ultimately it just kind of died from lack of use. It would get maybe one comment or two comments every month, some of which were mean. I'd have to moderate it, but I never went there. I never read it because it wasn't visible. So I decided to remove it in accordance with my continued goal to make the Krystal Archive as best as it can be. And you really won't miss that feature at all, because why? Because in the version 3, we're using a WordPress-based system, and that means that you can comment on any story that you want and say anything you want. You don't have to sign in. All you have to do is provide an email address, which is it's not used for anything other than to tell me that who you are, and so I can know who's who and possibly respond to you directly, privately. And you can obviously give your website so you can get some free publicity, as long as you're not a spam site, which I've had to deal a lot with lately, is getting rid of spam messages. But I think I've figured out how to make it so that they can't do that anymore. And just comment, say what you want about the posts and about whatever you want, because I'm not going to be just, and I haven't been strict at all about what you can comment on. You can, if you want to say something totally unrelated to the actual post, that's totally fine. Just do that, and I'll respond, because every single post that is a non-spam post gets sent. An email gets sent to me, and I get to I read it, and then I can respond directly to you, usually on the web page. So please use that feature. Comment all you want. After Brawl was after it was revealed that Krystal was not going to be in Brawl, during that night of leaks, when certain people in Japan got their copy of Brawl early, we knew pretty quickly that Krystal was not going to be a playable character, because all the characters were unlocked within a couple of hours, and that post spawned more than 100 comments of people who were sad or angry or, well, just didn't know what to do. But that was cool to read all your responses and respond to you. So please continue to do that in the future, and I'll keep reading your comments and responding. We'll have a great discussion. So the next thing that happened was a user of, I believe, I'm sorry, I don't remember off the top of my head who it was who told me. I think it's one of the questions for this podcast. But someone, either on Star Fox Online or Krystal Archive, told me that they had found a Star Fox article. And it was about the history of Star Fox. And it was written prior to the announcement of Star Fox Command. But it had some interesting notes about the original origin of Star Fox. And additionally, it had much more deep detail about the whole Rare being bought by Microsoft. And it turns out that Rare, after certain things happened with Nintendo, they decided we're gonna put ourselves up for bid. Since we own 51% of our stock, let's see if we can't get bought by anybody. Nintendo had 49%, so Rare had control. And ultimately, the person who won the bid was Microsoft. And Nintendo decided to get rid of their extra shares because they were worthless. They can't do anything with 49% of a Microsoft-owned corporation. So they decided to get rid of their stocks. But that created a problem with rights. Who owned what? I mean, Sure, there was Donkey Kong, but Rare's been developing Donkey Kong for years. And then what about games like Diddy Kong Racing? That had Diddy Kong in it, but it also had other characters like Banjo, which later appeared in Banjo-Kazooie. And what about Conker? Conker, I mean, you may have heard of him from Conker's Bad Fur Day, but he actually had a game before that that actually was meant for children. So what about that? And then there was, of course, Perfect Dark and Banjo-Kazooie series, and one other one. It was a shooter game. Another shooter. There was GoldenEye, and then there was a shooter that was like against aliens. I can't remember. It was in 64. Anyway, so what they ultimately decided is that any game that had Nintendo characters, and it was part of a Nintendo series, those rights remained with Nintendo, and everything else went to Rare. So that means that Banjo-Kazooie and Perfect Dark, as you know, went to Microsoft. But that confirms for us that every Star Fox character, every Donkey Kong character ever created by Rare is now officially Nintendo's property, which is why Nintendo was allowed to use Krystal in Assault and Command and now Brawl, although they didn't use her as a playable character. So, one of the things that Sakurai mentioned, I forgot to say, one of the things that they used to decide what character they could use were rights issues. So I had theorized that perhaps Krystal didn't have clear rights from Rare, but no, that is not the case. Nintendo absolutely owns the rights to Krystal. So if you had already assumed that, then have no fear. If you were afraid that Nintendo may not have the rights to her after all, well, don't worry anymore, because they do. And so we will definitely see Krystal in the future, unless they kill her off or do another series fork like they did for Star Fox 64. So most recently, Japan has discovered the Karameldelson meme, which is a video of a boy or girl or a set of characters doing a particular dance where they're putting their hands up to their heads and flapping them like their little wings and doing a side-to-side dance-like action to a song that is like a really sped-up version of a song that's from a Swedish artist, and I believe it's Swedish. And so Japan discovered this meme and decided to make a ton of videos. Most of them, or a lot of them, were Brawl related, and one of them had every single character in Brawl, including characters that didn't make it. So when they had the Star Fox characters, Fox, Falco, and Wolf, doing the Karameldelson dance, after it was switching to the next set, it showed several other characters, including Krystal and Cat. So that was interesting. I posted about that. Several people are sick of that meme now, but I like to take the best of all worlds, so it doesn't bother me too much. There was also another meme that originated in Japan, I believe. It's called the Danjo song, and it's a song about getting schoolboys and schoolgirls in a specific order to get on a school bus. And it's just got a really strange, particular sound to it. So they make videos about this, but instead of regular boys and girls, they switch it out with characters from games. And they made an entirely Star Fox one. So Krystal makes several appearances in that video. And there's also several appearances of Kirby Krystal, which would be Kirby with Krystal's powers absorbed. So he had a crystal wig on, so it was kind of funny. So that about covers, up to now, the things that happened since the last podcast. Wow, that's a lot, isn't it? So now I've got quite a few things to cover that are coming up. New stuff. News, exclusive news, and things I haven't told anybody yet. Okay, so I am currently doing this podcast in spite of the fact that I really don't have time to. And it's been this way for about a month, or at least a couple weeks. I've just been getting overrun with schoolwork, which is to be expected in a master's program. But nevertheless, I've instituted something I did not institute last semester, which is my Leave the Internet protocol, where I do not check my RSS feeds, and I do not check internet forums that I am a part of, most namely Star Fox Online and the Krystal Lovers Association. So I don't post there. I don't read my RSS feeds. I try not to do any kind of internet-related or TV-related activity that is not directly related to my education, so that I can get my projects done and catch up. And unfortunately, I did do that. I did do that for the last couple weeks, and then I came off of it, but only for about a day or so when the work started piling up again. So I decided to institute it for theoretically the rest of the semester. So I'm kind of disappointed to do that, but I did promise. I've been promising for weeks I'd be doing this podcast, especially since I have to do the Alesia Glidewell. See, I know how to pronounce her name now. Her interview. I promised to do that, and now I'm going to do that. Hell or high water, as they say. So, other than this podcast, I don't plan on updating the site in any major way for the next couple weeks. The end of the semester is only a couple weeks away, so you don't have too long to wait. It should be like the first week in May. I'll be completely done. And from the looks of it, I'm doing just fine. I've managed to learn something in math that I could not understand after studying it for 5 days when I failed this class last semester. It's called linear algebra, and most of you will probably never have a math this hard, but it's apparent. But the math of linear algebra is essential for the for graphics and animation in the programming level. And the concept that I could not understand, let me just explain it real quick. It is linear algebra deals with doing algebra, addition, subtraction, multiplication, and other mathematical operations on things that are not real numbers. They are things other than numbers, but they still act like numbers. Things like polynomials, sets of real numbers, sets of non-real numbers, matrices, Lagrange polynomials, and other strange number systems, like, say, a number system that's only made up of primes and other prime numbers and no other type of number. And I just have to say you have to bend your mind in all kinds of crazy ways to get your head around the concepts. So there are things called linear transformations, which do a transformation, and they literally take a number, and it's not a number anymore because it's not a real number. When it's a number that isn't a number, they call it a vector. So you take a vector and you send it through a transform, which is like a function. You send it through a transform, and when it comes out, it's another vector, or it might be the same. Or it might be the same vector, but in a different number system. So you can turn a polynomial into a set of real numbers, or a single real number. Or you can turn a polynomial into a matrix, whatever it is. Well, that's easy enough to do. The problem becomes turning those transformations into a matrix, because it turns out you can take any vector and multiply it as a column vector against a matrix, and it will do the transformation. As long as it's, capable of doing the transformation, it will create. You can create a matrix to do that. That also is not that complicated. But the most complicated thing is the fact that there are non-standard bases, which is to say, there are more than one type of number even within vectors. So say we have real numbers. We have the counting numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, etc. That's great and all, but that's in base 10, the decimal system. Okay, so you count to 10 and then you start over. In binary, you count to 1 and then you start over. So it's 0, 1, 1, 0, 1, 1, and then 1, 0, 0, 1, 0, 1, 1, 1, 0, 1, 1, 1, and so on, to get the equivalent of the real numbers. So that is basically the difference between standard basis and non-standard basis. So if your input or output happens to be at a non-standard basis, you have to first transform it into a normal basis, then transform it, then output it to the standard basis or non-standard basis, depending on the case of the problem. And it took much study, but at the end of this week, I actually do understand that now. I can do just about any problem related to it. So I'm extremely happy, because that's probably the most difficult thing I'm going to have to do in math in the foreseeable future. So that's my personal triumph over math, which is my most difficult subject. So other things that that are going to happen soon. So you may not know, you probably don't know since I've only told about 2 people this. I created a new script to do the fan art. Now, if I give this certain script a piece of fan art, okay, I'm sorry, not a piece of fan art. If I give a script, a Perl script that I programmed, a list of data that contains per line a artist name, the artwork's title, and the URL to that image, and lastly any notes or comments that I want to have about it, it will transform into the HTML table that you see on the fan art side of the website, the Krystal Archive. And that's all fine and dandy, but how do you put it into that list in the first place? Well, I've been creating new programs recently that help me with that task. So, when I'm looking for new Krystal fan art, one of the main ways I do it is by looking through DeviantArt, one of the biggest art websites on the internet, where anyone can post images and other things like Flash and such like that. Anytime I detect that a person has created a Krystal fan art, and I do that through searching, I add them to the list of artists that I watch. And every time that an artist that I watch makes a new art of any kind, it gets stored in a list called my Dev Watch. And so every week or so I get about 200 to 400 new fan arts. And that's becoming hard to keep up with, especially if I have to manually click on each one to find out what they are and to get the data for them. Well, I created a new Perl script that what I do is for every 100 entries, I can see 100 entries at a time, I grab the text of that web page and I stick it in a file. And I just stick the other files in it, and for like whatever, 10 pages of fan art, I stick them in this file, and it's just a copy paste. It takes like no time at all. And then I run it through this Perl script, and it extracts all the URLs, and only the URLs of the artwork. That's it. So what I did with those is I sent them through another Perl script that I created, and it creates a custom web page for a list of URLs that allow you to click on them, and it will take you to the art. And I'm using this to help me quickly identify all the artworks that have Krystal in them without actually having to go through DeviantArt's system every time. And the better part of that is that I can post this anywhere I want, including a hidden section of my website, which I'm not going to give you the address at this time, but I have given to a couple people who have volunteered to help, and they go through a section or two. I have them set so that every 500 of them they change color, the links change color, so that you can see a difference. And you can go through them, and you pick a number. You say, they say, okay, I'm going to work on 500 to 1,000, and I'm going to send you an email that contains only the links that have Krystal in them. And so they did that once before, and I'm going to make it even better when they get the time to help me out with this set, this newest set I just sent them about a week ago. They will send me just the URLs back. Now that's fine and good. I can review them anytime I want to make sure they're okay, write the appropriate comments, make changes as necessary, because some artists' names, they're signed in as, they have 2 accounts, but they're really the same person, so I gotta give them the same name and stuff like that. So what I did is I made another script that can take a list of URLs. It can, via the command line, get the web pages of that URL, store it, parse out just the artist name and the title of the art, and stick it in a list with in the appropriate format to output to the script that ultimately sends it back to the website. So that means I don't have to do that either. So the only time-consuming part left
of finding crystal artwork for the site is now simply the human task of identifying crystal in all these thousands of crystal fan arts. Right now I have a backlog of over 2,000 links to go through, and I've already gotten help from some, and I've already done about 1,000 myself. I'm sorry, not 2,000. There are 5,000 backed up, and more coming every day, so I gotta finish these. It's likely I won't finish this set before summer, but that's okay. Now the system works better, and hopefully, wink wink nudge nudge, some of you out there might be able to help me, and all that will be necessary is simply going through a list of links, checking to make sure that crystal is in it or not, and then send me an email of the URLs that have crystal in it, and then just disregard the URLs that do not have crystal in it. And if you're not sure or you can't access the page, send me those links as well, and I'll check them myself. So that's the fan art situation. Now I've got 2 pieces of yet unrevealed news. This is totally new. I just haven't had the chance to post about it or make the appropriate changes to the site, and that's because these things will add at least 1 page to the site apiece. Okay, so Nanogur, he's a student, and he has allowed the Crystal Archive to host one of his 3D crystal models before. Recently devised a method to extract the crystal model, the actual crystal 3D model, from Krystal Assault, and also the textures to go along with it, via some ROM hacking or something like that. Well, I'm proud to announce that he has allowed the Crystal Archive to host those files. Anyone may download the Assault crystal model. It's exactly the same as in the game, and there's a fur and non-fur version because as you can probably remember in Assault, during certain cutscenes, Crystal has her fur, but in the actual game, she does not, probably because of rendering speed issues. But an actual official crystal model is going to be available soon, and I'll post that as soon as I can, back when I come back to the internet in a few weeks. The other thing, and if you want to check that out real quick, there is a post about it on the Crystal Lovers Association. You'll have to find that post, but it's in there. I believe it's in the fan art section, so you'll need a couple posts to get access to that section. They didn't want people leeching off of them or whatever. I don't know. Anyway, the other big thing is someone else told me, or it might have been the same person. No, it was someone else told me another interesting thing. They found another person's website who had worked on Star Fox Adventures, and for what I can tell, they were a modeler, not an animator. And this modeler posted several images from Star Fox Adventures, including some images that don't happen in the game. Particularly Crystal being picked up and captured by the first boss, that 6-legged crab-like dinosaur creature that you have to be eaten by to defeat in Star Fox Adventures, and she's being grabbed by it, and Fox is like trying to save her. And that was a real interesting image, so interesting that the person who emailed me about this emailed that modeler and said, "Hey, what's this? I want to hear more about this." And the modeler promptly removed it from his site. Well, fortunately for you and me, this person who sent me the email sent me the pictures too, and so now I have that picture, and I'll be posting that on the website as soon as I can. There are also several other pictures of Crystal, and some other general Star Fox Adventures pictures that are very interesting and other than this place, yet unrevealed, that will now reveal and have great content for Star Fox Online now. So I'll be posting that soon. The other, another thing that I probably mentioned in the last podcast, but I'm going to say it again, I'm continually working to get more interviews for this podcast, and that includes Still Ellis and Scry, the wearer of the new crystal fursuit. I've got at least 3 other people in mind, and I'm not going to tell you who they are yet, since I haven't contacted them yet, but it should be really interesting to hear what they have to say. I'll just say that. So working on that, just know that. In relation to the site itself, in episode 15, when Foxbird22 was fortunate enough to be able to be with us, he brought up several issues that we wanted to address for the continued betterment of the Krystal Archive. And we've done a lot of them, but there's 3 left that really need to be done. And so I'm going to say that I'm still thinking about them and still thinking about what I have to do to get those done. One is a fan fiction layout change, and I'm going to do that eventually. It's just going to be a simple CSS change, and I'll make the fan fiction section look a lot better. Speaking of fan fiction, right now, Foxbird22 has been really busy, probably more busy than me with his schoolwork. And that's why he hasn't appeared on this podcast and why he hasn't been doing any fanfiction updates lately. But as far as I know, he's still our official fanfiction reviewer, since he can read a lot faster than me, and he's better at the whole review of literature. So yeah, as I said, more guest interviews are being investigated. I am going to have, as I said I would, user-submitted audio clips in the place of questions. And I've got one of them for you later when we're actually doing the question section of the podcast. And the final issue is the ability to donate. Now, I really wanted to add the donate button over the Christmas break, but that kind of slipped through the cracks. So I'll say that I'm going to try and add the donate button soon. And once again, the donate button is for those who want to donate to the site and help me keep it running. Of course, aside from some crazy thing happening, I plan to keep the Krystal Archive running for the foreseeable future, and all that with no ads. So it's not like if you don't donate, something bad will happen. But I would really appreciate it if you would help out, and I promise you I will use the money for good. Such as, for instance, there's one thing that you might enjoy me buying. For instance, there's in addition to hosting, of course, there is a I have videos on the site, Krystal videos, and you've probably seen some of them. And the bane of my existence is the interlacing format of video. Most TVs until recently used interlacing, which is to save speed and time, they would only draw every other line, and then in the next frame they would draw the other every other line, and so they could get double the frame rate without twice as much data. Well, that works great on a TV, but on a computer screen, which is always progressive scan, you can see it immediately. Every fast motion, you can see these lines, and it's just extremely annoying. And there's really no way around it unless you can record progressive scan video, which is what it's called. Now, Star Fox Adventures and all Wii games are compatible with progressive scan video. The problem is that there is no, to my knowledge, system or device that you can import progressive scan video from an arbitrary video source such as component cables for less than $3,000, because that kind of video equipment is considered, quote, professional. So everything you can buy, and in fact the top of the line capture card that I can buy that's not, quote, professional level is interlaced. I cannot capture progressive scan video. It's not possible at this time. But if I had $3,000, I could buy a progressive scan video capture device. It'd be this massive thing I could set on the desk, and I could get true full resolution video. So that's one thing I might buy with that money that you might theoretically be donating. But if not, hey, I mean, you can live with low quality videos, right? Anyways, moving on. One of the major things I want to get started over the summer when I get to updating the site again is a new campaign. As some of you know, when it was first announced that the Japanese side of the Brawl site was going to have a suggestion box, I immediately jumped on and said, hey, let's get together, learn enough Japanese to send them a message saying we want Krystal and Brawl. And I had people do that. I know several dozen people did it, and there's really no telling how many people did it because not everybody told me that they did it. But it provided instructions on how to copy the Japanese text into the text box and hit submit, and it meant, hey, I want Krystal and Brawl as playable character. And I also collected signatures. The people could write a signature on a piece of paper, scan it, send the picture to me, and I created an actual letter which I sent to Nintendo of America, expressing the reasons why we wanted Krystal and Brawl and how we thought that it would be good for them and for us. And unfortunately, it would seem that Krystal was not in Brawl, so it would seem that they did not heed our request, either on the Japanese side or on the American side, because in America all they sent me back was a letter saying, thank you for your interest, you should post on this topic where people are also making their suggestions. And of course I looked at the topic and it had 10,000 pages. I'm like, I'm not going to go through that. No one's going to read 10,000 pages. That's crazy talk. So I ignored it, but it didn't matter anyway, because by that time all the characters had been selected, which is why we need to start the campaign now. Smash 4 is undoubtedly coming out. Now you may say, well, the third one is the last one of the series. It's a trilogy, you know. I'm sorry, but as long as there's money to be made, there will be another Smash game. Just like people are saying, maybe there will never be another Star Fox game. No, as long as there's money to be made, they will make a new Star Fox game. And last I checked, Star Fox games were fairly successful, making over $1 million a piece. Even Adventures, which a lot of Star Fox fans consider one of the worst, I checked recently. It got pretty good reviews, better than average, and sold quite a few. So there's going to be another Star Fox game coming soon, and there's going to be a new Smash game soon. So the campaign, the petition to start up to have Krystal as a playable character in Super Smash Bros. 4 or whatever it's going to be called. I'm going to start before Nintendo has even selected the person who's going to make Smash 4, so that we can have a presence and they can know what we want. And hopefully we'll get the signatures we need, and or whatever we need to do, maybe online petition, whatever. I have one more personal thing before we get to the questions. So I'm at DigiPen, and I'm studying to become a video game programmer, and having reasonable success. I'm not doing quite as well as I wanted to, but I am learning a lot, much more than I thought possible, especially about the area of computer graphics, which is one of the most complicated parts, oddly enough, because of all the math involved. Anyway, so I'm going to be starting to look for a job in the next year or so. And, I want to make a good impression on my bosses or my potential employers. And, there are certain reasons why people can and can't hire you. And there's legal reasons about they can't fire you because of this, or they can't not hire you because of this, that, and the other. And I don't believe being a furry is one of those things. But it's a weird enough thing that it's considered weird to some people. It's considered strange or unusual, and not to mention the fact that I have not one but two websites that does news on video game characters and series. So it might be some kind of conflict of interest. Or at least it may seem to them, because what if I tell a secret, right? Though I'm good at keeping secrets, obviously, since none of you knew some of the things I mentioned already. I don't want to have to say, hey, we found your resume online. That's great. We're thinking about hiring you. And they say, okay. And then they look up my name on Google, and what comes up? Well, it depends, right? But I don't want the Krystal archive to come up as one of the first things. Not that I'm ashamed of it. I don't really even care if people know that I like Krystal as much as I do. The problem is that I don't want them to prejudge me by what they think I'm like, because of some taboo notion of what people think furries are like. And so I want to remove that temptation from even being available to them. And then after they interview me, of course I'll have to tell them, hey, I've got these websites, because they've got these non-compete clauses, and my contract will say something about, all the code you make is ours. And I'm going to have to say, well, I've got these websites, and I do make code for them. It's mostly HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. It's not really game code. And what if I want to make a game all on my own time, at home? How does that deal with it? I'm going to have to bring up the fact that I own the Krystal Archive. But by that time, they will have interviewed me and want to hire me. Then it's just like, well, we already know you. We know you're not some crazy person. So, sure, we'll hire you. That's not a big deal, right? We know who you are now. So, because of all this, I regretfully will be removing my name from everything related to Star Fox that I do. And I've already begun the process. You probably haven't noticed because it's really subtle. And that's a key point. For instance, I'm not going to make an announcement about this on the home page of the website specifically. I may make some passing mention at it. But it's for you on the podcast to hear, because search engines cannot index podcasts audio. My name is Dwight House, and I'm no longer going to use that name unless I have to, and then I won't use my last name. I'll use just my first name in the future. And in the future, I'm not going to even use my first name if I can avoid it. I'm going to go under an alias. And thus far, I've pretty much settled on the alias Mr. Krystal, since that was the only one available on Gmail when I was trying to get a new email address. So yes, Mr. Krystal at gmail.com, no spaces, no periods. That is my new email address, and in the coming weeks or so, all of the email that you send to me via my YouTube account, and via my audio account, and via the Krystal Archive, and Star Fox Online, and the KLA, and every other place remotely related to Star Fox is going to transfer over to mrkrystal at gmail.com. I'm also going to retroactively remove my name and email from other things like the podcast show notes, since I still have access to them, and any other place that may be remotely related to Star Fox, such as my DeviantArt account and my You're the Man Now Dog account, which only has Krystal stuff, even though it's my name. So I'm going to be removing those, or moving those, or changing my account name to Mr. Krystal or whatever, and take care of it that way. And I'm going to do this over time so that people don't notice per se, because there's one thing, if there's one way to get yourself exposed, it's by trying to hide stuff, especially on the internet. So, the internet never forgets anything. My name will still be there for years to come, because Google has logs of stuff. But if I slowly change my name from Dwight House to Mr. Krystal in various places, eventually, it's not like the logs are going to go away, but they'll become less important, because there are newer logs with a different name on them, and those will come up more frequently than something that's really old that has my name on it, because it's a log of a previous version of the site. And that also means that my website, dwightdesign.com, where the Krystal Archive and Saurian Translator and the Star Fox command, all the words, are hosted. All the links to those web pages have already been removed. I have removed them from my web page. They're still there, as you probably can guess. The Krystal Archive is still there. You're listening to this podcast after all. But you can't get it to them from my website. But that still doesn't handle the fact that I am that the Krystal Archive's official URL is krystalarchive.dwightdesign.com, which is ultimately trackable back to me. So I will be that's the other phase of my plan. I'm going to try and register a new domain for the Krystal Archive, crystalarchive.com or whatever. And I'll be moving the site yet again. I'm sorry you have to change your bookmarks yet again. And hey, it's a problem for me. I've got to change like 50 YouTube videos links, and it's a lot of links to change. But over time, I will make that change. It'll probably be kind of a hard transition, but it shouldn't take more than a month. And when it's over, I won't have to move again. My identity will be completely sealed, except for in the minds of you who remember. And I will be known as Mr. Krystal. So, if you don't mind too much, I mean, you can use my real name if you want to, especially if we're already on a first name basis or whatever, and we talk via AIM. That's fine. But in the future, if you're in your emails, please refer to me as Mr. Krystal, and or you know, whatever, or just say hey you, you know, whatever. I'm going to be removing my name from in relation to the subject matter of Star Fox and Krystal. Okay, so I hope that's not too painful for you guys. I mean, it's just a name, but it's a pretty big deal for me, and it's quite a lot of work I'm going to have to do to get that all straightened out. All right. So, before we get to the questions, yes, we do have the interview, the Alesia Glidewell interview. Is going to come up right after the questions, and I have to apologize to you all and to Alesia, who may be listening to this podcast. I officially fail at life because I tried to get everything exactly right for when she came and we did the interview, and I just missed the most basic thing that I did remember to do, but did it wrong. You see, the software I'm using to record this podcast is called GarageBand. It's a Apple software that's used specifically for music creation and podcast creation, and I'm using their podcast editor right now. It has a limit of 1 hour and 30 minutes or so on the length of a podcast, or well, any song really, because it's not a professional product, it's an amateur product, right? Well, you can get around this by changing the beats per minute to 40 instead of 120, which doesn't affect the sound quality at all. It just makes the length of the song allowed to be farther. Since I'm recording all this stuff as it happens at 40 beats per minute, it's perfectly all right. The problem was when I first set up GarageBand before she got there to do the interview, I set it to 40 beats per minute, as I should have. But unfortunately, I opened the wrong type of project. I opened a music project instead of a podcast project. So once I realized that, I closed it and opened a new podcast project, but I forgot to change the beats per minute again. And that means that after 1 hour and 32 minutes or so of the podcast, of the interview, it cut out. Now, you're saying, well, how could the interview last that long? Well, we kind of stopped in the middle and addressed questions that she didn't have a full understanding of, or to clarify things. And because I mean, well, you'll find out why exactly that some clarification may be needed. But there was almost 40 minutes of in between talk time where we were recording, but it wasn't going to end up in the interview. And unfortunately, that took up most of the time, available time of that 1 hour and 30 minutes. And when we got to the end of the interview, I checked the thing and noticed that it had stopped, and I was devastated. And I apologized profusely to Alesia. And that means that, and by that time it was noon, and she had to leave. So so we're going to schedule another time to interview, and we're going to finish the interview. And now we know more about what we're going to ask and say, so that'll be good. And it'll probably go pretty fast. But the problem is we missed that. We missed that whole half of the podcast interview, and it just devastated. Even though like everything else went perfectly and my day was great after that. It snowed and it was like a wonderful day. I was just so bummed out. So I apologize to you. This is after the questions. It's going to be just half of the interview, about half of the questions. We didn't get to the part. It didn't record to the part where your questions were answered. So that's going to have to wait till next time. Your questions will be answered soon enough. As soon as I can schedule a new interview, I'll release that as a separate podcast with just her, just that last part of the interview. So with that, I'm going to move on to questions, and we have a ton of them. But fortunately, it's not so much explaining; it's reading, so it won't take as long as the news. All right. First one. Hey Dwight, my name is Scott Magarinia. Sorry, I can't pronounce your name. It's got a little accent above the N. I am a huge Krystal fan. As we all know, Krystal was unfortunately left out of the final roster of Brawl. This killed me. I really couldn't believe it. So I did a lot of research for a long time, and I came across this on an IGN thread. I'm not sure if you've seen this yet, but just in case you haven't, I'm showing it to you now. Here's the link, and he gave me a link. Please reply to this link if it doesn't work. Now I know there isn't that much proof behind all this, but it does sound very believable. If it does turn out to be true, if there would be, then it would be a perfect explanation as to why Krystal, along with some of the other highly anticipated characters, did not make the final roster nor the assist trophy or trophy list. So what are your thoughts on this? Again, sorry if you've heard this already. Just want to be sure, you know? Thanks. AKA Kinji the Dragon Rider. So, thanks Scott, or Kinji. The link he sent me didn't really talk about Krystal that much, but it was a link about a new technology that some insider was saying was going to be related to Brawl, and it wasn't downloadable content, but it was similar. My guess is it's something like the Microsoft's XNA Game Studio, which allows you to very simply and easily create video games for Xbox 360 and Windows PCs. I've used this technology. It worked pretty well considering, and I made 2 games on it without even knowing the language that well. So I think Nintendo is going to do something like that, because there has been some announcements of Nintendo patents along the same line, where you will be able to download for free or for very cheap a development kit and make games for WiiWare or some other technology, maybe the Game Boy or the Nintendo DS or something like that. But I have no idea what this insider was actually referring to. Alright. The next email was about bounties. So in relation to an action replay code for Star Fox Adventures to switch Fox's model with Krystal's model in-game in a stable way, allowing me to play through the game, through Fox portions of the game with Krystal's model. There is already a non-working code for this, and more information at a link I provide on my webpage, and he's just quoting me right now. And I will pay $50 for this. Another bounty I offer: a method to obtain direct source audio of all characters' voice acting from Star Fox Assault. You must provide me with either a program and/or instruction required to functionally obtain these audio clips. I will pay $50 for this technique. And finally, I'm offering a bounty of $50 for a method to obtain direct source 2-dimensional sprites from all characters in the Star Fox command, including variations, frames of animation, ending cutscenes, intro cutscenes. You must provide me with the program, instruction, and/or image files, and alternatively, you can just send me the sprite files already ripped, and I'll pay $50. I'll pay $50 for all of these bounties. So his question is, what is the direct source audio, or at least what direct source audio do you need? And this is from Fox of Affinity. Basically, I need someone to hack the game so that I can listen to the voice acting without hearing background noise or music. Because in Star Fox Assault, There is no sound test mode, nor is there a way to turn off sound effects and music. So the only way to record voices is with all those background noises and music in the background. And it really interferes with your ability to hear what Krystal's saying and all the other characters. Of course, long ago, before I created the Krystal Archive, I discovered a program that will let me do that exact thing with the voice acting in Star Fox Adventures. So that's already done. But hey, if you are pretty computer savvy and can hack game ROMs or whatever, these $50 offers still stand. If you can do these things, I'll be happy to pay you $50 via check in the mail, and it will provide great new content for the site. The next email is from Gamer18. On the podcast, you talked about a roster that had Krystal as an assist trophy. Well, as much as I hate to say it, it looks like that might be true. Most of the characters have already been revealed, including Rob, and I hate to say it, but Krystal's not in there. We still don't know what the final roster is, but it looks like these 35 characters are all of them. Here's a pic of all the characters in the Brawl roster so far that I found. And my response is, of course, indeed, it is true. I'm sad to say, Krystal is not a playable character. And in fact, she's not even an assist trophy, which is odd. But anyway, moving on. The next email is from someone... Oh, here we go. Danny from the UK. I'm a big fan of Krystal, and your website is really great. I found this on a Stage 6 website, and thought you might like it. And he sent me a link to the Star Fox fan game that's based off of a Free Space mod, Free Space 2, called Shadows of Lilat, I believe. Yeah, Shadows of Lilat. And I said, thanks. The game is Shadows of Lilat, a Free Space 2 mod for the Star Fox, and it will probably be awesome when it comes out. Still no word on when it does come out. Alright, next email. Hey, just wanted to drop by and say I love your site. Krystal is one of my favorite video game characters, and it's great to see a site dedicated to her. I know she gets a lot of stick for apparently ruining Star Fox, but I still stand by Krystal and think she's great. I'm just really disappointed she didn't get into Brawl over Wolf. Oh well, maybe he deserved it more. Anyway, next time I guess. I recently started listening to your podcast, and I've got a lot of catching up to do. Anyway, keep up the good work, and you rock. From Andy. Thanks for your kind words, Andy. Always warms my heart and soul when I hear that there are Krystal fans and even fans of my website. So our next question is from Saber. Hey there. I know you're busy, and so I'll skip right to the point. First off, you joked about setting up a forum after all the comments recently. Why not? If you do make one, make it a subsection. Why not, if you do make one, make it a subsection of Star Fox Online? I haven't had much experience with it on that forum, but the members seem more mature and level-headed than on the KLA. Secondly, you have started accepting audio for podcast questions. I was wondering if it would be possible for me to submit an audio article about Krystal's staff in the distant future. Currently, the Krystal Archive has loads of content. What with Smash Brothers and interviews so far. What with Smash Brothers and interviews coming, so forth. But it's something to consider when things are calm and slowed down. Hope everything is great. See you later. My response is, whoa, dissing the KLA, I see. The KLA has had its share of crazy people, I will admit that. And it is certainly a very special place. But that's all I'm going to say about that. Anyway, perhaps I'll make a forum eventually, but not now. I'm certainly too busy. Yes, I have considered making a special forum within Star Fox Online for the Krystal Archive visitors, with the forum's approval, of course. But even with that plan, for right now, it probably won't work. And the reason is that Star Fox Online's forums have been having trouble recently from our server. You see, the server system is really giving us the short end of the stick as far as SQL and bandwidth, so we're getting an extremely slow. Everything is slow. Slow, slow, slow. And adding a bunch of members and a whole new subforum will only add to that problem. As much as I would love more visitors to come to Star Fox Online, I'm afraid the software can't handle it at this time. But don't worry, Star Fox Online is actively planning to move to a new server, the same server that the Krystal Archive works on. The same server set. It's the same company, a different company. And it will undoubtedly be much faster, and at that time we can decide if we want to have a Krystal Archive subsection of Star Fox Online. We'll see. So maybe this summer. As for, a forum, Star Fox, sorry, not Star Fox, Krystal Archive forum, I have considered that as well, having a forum. Considering the number of visitors that I have every day, it might be a viable option, but for right now I don't have the time to manage it, and I'd have to get in contact with some people who might want to be moderators, because I won't be able to monitor everything. I just don't have the time to monitor another forum. So we'll see. As for the Krystal staff audio article, sure, send it in. I'm always looking for great new content. If it's relevant and mature and free of curse words or whatever, I'll play it on the air. Absolutely. We can save it for a time when there's less content for the podcast. All right. So our next email is it says, "Hello. I'm not sure if you were aware, but rumors have recently been floating around about downloadable content. A completely separate channel dedicated to the advent of new characters, stages, and items, possibly even Krystal." And then he posted a couple links, and it says, "Is there still hope for Krystal to be a playable character? Looks like the prospect is getting closer to reality than ever." And that came from Heaven's Gate. Well, unfortunately, those rumors have now been squashed. Sakurai said in a recent interview that there will be no downloadable characters for Super Smash Bros. Brawl. Perhaps they were referring to the WiiWare channel, where you can download new games. And here's the portion of the interview. So this is IGN talking to Sakurai. "We have to ask, because there are so many rumors about this. Are there any hidden characters to come? Can you unlock more hidden fighters by way of Wii Connect 24? Or will you offer new downloadable content, new fighters for example, using that service?" Sakurai: "No, there are no characters that could be unlocked via connecting to Wii Connect 24 or interacting in that fashion. I may be mistaken here, but the Wii doesn't have a hard drive. It's a disc-based system, so I don't think we'll be doing that. I don't think it's going to happen. So, pretty much no chance of downloadable characters in Brawl. Sorry guys. I wish it was true, but it's not." Alright, next one. "Hello! I had a question about the Star Fox cutscenes that are on the Krystal Archive and Star Fox Online. I wanted to make a Star Fox music video with the song Citizen Soldier and use clips from Assault and Adventures. I went to the Krystal Archive, but the links didn't let me download the cutscenes, so I went to the Star Fox Online and downloaded those, unzipped them all, and tried to import them into Windows Movie Maker, but it says that they won't let me use that type of file. These are QuickTime Player files. Is there any other file type that I can download, and or another place I can find them? Or maybe another video making program you can recommend? By the way, I'm McLeod on the forums. Sorry for the trouble. I'm still hoping for Krystal in North America." So thanks, McLeod. That was from McLeod. So my reply is that I sent him an email that was a link to the page that I made on the Krystal Archive. You may not know about it because it's kind of hard to find. But in the fan film section, there is a page specifically devoted to helping people make Krystal fan films. I've provided all video of Krystal from Assault and Adventures in much higher quality than you can download on the site normally, but it has no sound, and it's specifically designed for making videos. And unfortunately, those files are also in MPEG-4 format, which are extremely efficient, high-quality codecs, but unfortunately have a hard time being used for fan films directly. You usually have to convert them into a more usable format. But that page where I talk about those fan films, that fan film helper video, it has a tutorial about how you can convert those videos into a more usable format. So check that out. It's of course at the Krystal Archive website /fanfilms/video editing. All one word, all lowercase. Okay? Next email. Hey, first off, it's Eckestshire, not Lancashire, or however you said it. But it's okay anyway. See, he had emailed me a previous podcast, and I apparently mispronounced his name or where he lives. I can't remember which. But anyway, I apologize once again. I'm horrible with reading names. Anyway, continuing with the email, I just wanted to let you know how you feel about Wolf being a playable character in Brawl instead of Krystal, because he had much fewer requests than Krystal. Personally, I think Wolf will be a really cool character as long as he has different moves from Fox, and hopefully a different final smash, and that goes for Falco's as well. Well, it turns out that he came with the same final smash and the same as Falco's. Falco has the same final smash too, so it's like Super Smash Bros. Landmaster. It's crazy. So I'm of course happy for the Wolf fans, and I'm happy that another Star Fox character appeared in Brawl. I'm happy that these things happened. But, I'm really a fan of Krystal too, and that is the most disappointing thing. Now, don't get me wrong, Brawl is an excellent game that you should play whether Krystal's in it or not. You should not base your game buying decision on whether a certain character is in it. You should base your game buying decision on whether the game is fun or not. And by most definitions, the game is fun, and you really should buy it and play it, or play it. If you can't buy it, that's fine. Just play it at somebody's house. And Wolf is interesting, more powerful than Fox, a little slower, has different attacks, and he's less of a clone than Falco, but still kind of the same moveset, just not quite a clone, about the amount of clone that the Luigi is a clone of Mario, which is not really a clone at all. So, moving on to the next email. In this article, which was about Krystal and Star Fox Adventures on the Krystal Archive, it says the following. As soon as Krystal was released by the Krazoa, someone came up behind her. As soon as Krystal released the Krazoa into the statue, someone came up behind her and knocked her into the beam created by the Krazoa, and eventually she got trapped inside a crystal, ironically enough. So why does it say someone? It's Andros, which is confirmed due to the color scheme, I think, isn't it? And this is from Malta. Melnick. So, Melnick, no, it's not confirmed. This is one of the most controversial Star Fox plot holes in all of Star Fox. It's a widely held belief that Andros is indeed the person who pushed Krystal. There are many problems with this theory. One, and this is not a complete list, but these are the major points. One, Andros would have been a ghost of his former self at this time. If he had had the power to push someone, he could have just as easily crushed Fox's lungs, so there's no real need for him to get a new body. 2. Andros is a giant floating head. There's no way that he could have hidden behind that tiny pillar and Krystal not see him. 3. It is a faulty assumption to think that Andros is the only person in the universe to have that kind of eyesight. After all, when you see that color scheme for the third time at the end of the game, it's actually through a Krazoa's eyes, not Andros's. And 4th, Andros does not roar like a dinosaur, which you can hear if you listen to the video. Whoever pushes Krystal makes a roar noise. Alright, so the next email. I was wondering, You said to me last time that you were going to explain who pushed Krystal into the crystal. Could you also explain a little bit about the structure of the palace and the jobs of the Krazoa? Like, it seems odd that they would have a temple that's all just one giant trap for Krystal. Was the whole structure on top made by Andros, or was someone controlling it? Or was he controlling someone? And then the Sharpclaw were cheering at the end, and Krystal had a ship? Where did she get that? It's all very confusing. I'm trying to understand as much of Star Fox as I can to work with this story I'm writing. So any help from you would be great. Thanks, Z Wolf. Well, I've just explained some of the reasons why Andros was an unlikely person to be pushing Krystal into the beam. I don't know for sure myself, but it's my belief that it was Scales who actually pushed Krystal. I don't think Andros was in control of Scales either, but rather made subconscious suggestions to him, one of which was to attempt to take over the planet, which wouldn't be too much of a stretch, because Andros could have made him think that that was his idea. I believe that it was Scales, that Scales was a completely separate entity from Andros in the fight between Fox and Scales, and Scales did not know who he was. I believe this because of that, because they were completely separate. Andros was here, and Scales was down here, and Scales didn't know who he was, but obviously had been in some control. So because Scales knew that he had the Krazoa spirit or whatever. So I believe it was Scales who actually pushed Krystal because he had motive. He'd been insulted by Krystal and she broke his airship. And opportunity. He actually does have a teleportation device on his belt, which you can see at the beginning of the second boss fight. I believe the palace, the Krazoa palace, had other uses than a trap, but certainly the designers of the game made that a major feature. Perhaps no one was ever supposed to be pushed into that beam, in which case Krystal corrupted whatever the machine was originally intended to do. Your guess is as good as mine on what that was. The Krazoa Palace, like all the ruins on Soria, probably were made by an extinct ancient race. I doubt the dinosaurs could have built something like that. The Sharpclaws were cheering because they had been freed of Scales' tyrannical rule. As you can see, they hold up a belt saying, yeah, we've conquered our fear of our leader and now we're free. As for Krystal's ship, I believe that ship was what she used to originally get to Soria. A genetic space transport ship, perhaps, that the Sharpclaws later stole. It could be the other way around, however. Krystal could have borrowed it from the Sharpclaw after Andros was defeated. No telling. Don't worry too much about being confused. Star Fox has a ton of plot holes that aren't always easy to explain, and a lot of the explanations are certainly not official. So, next email. Hey, here are my questions. I'm over here in Australia. If you ever need a hand with some Krystal stuff, just give me a shout. I hope they are some stuff you can answer on the podcast. And I'll talk to you later. The Canadian 22. P.S. Krystal rules. And the Canadian was the person I was mentioning earlier because he sent us a audio clip to play as his questions. So I'm going to play that now. And here we go.
Hey, I'm the Canadian 92, and I just got a few questions about Krystal. First question is Krystal in any way appearing in Fox, Falco's, or Wolf's subspace a mystery? Like, is she part of the storyline, or does she have a minor role as, I don't know, maybe she just talks to Fox or something once during the game? My other question is, has there been any talk of a new Smash Bros. Game yet? Because I was really disappointed when I found out that Krystal wasn't going to be in Brawl. And now I'm really looking forward to the new one, the next one after this one. My other question is, any Star Fox games? Are there going to be, has there been any talk of any Star Fox games coming out soon? because I'd really like to see what happens next. Hope you can answer my questions, and thanks for your time. Oh, and just one more thing. Has there been a set release date for Smash Bros. Brawl in Australia yet? Thanks. That's all. Cool. See ya.
So that was Canadian 22's questions. So Krystal in the Subspace Emissary. As far as I know, no. I haven't done every level, and I haven't done every level to 100%, so there may be some branching path where I didn't see her, but I don't think she is. New Smash Brothers or Star Fox game. More money, more games. You know, as long as there's money to be made, they'll make new Star Fox games and new Smash Brothers games, as I mentioned earlier. And do I know the release date for Brawl in Australia? I'm afraid not. It's probably going to be sometime this year, and I've been hearing a lot of rumors about it appearing in Europe in the summer. So hopefully it won't be too much longer for you. Next email. Hey guys, it's been a while. I heard that there won't be any downloadable content for Brawl, and that they, the makers, had their choices set when the project began. They asked for opinions, but it was worthless apparently. I'll still buy Brawl, but it won't be as good without Krystal as a playable character. It should have been a duh decision to put her in there. As the game has clones, maybe with different styles of A button attacks, but still clones nonetheless. They made Melee 2 years after the N64 version and did a lot. They could have done a lot more with 3 years they had to make this. Even replaced Rob with custom Robo's Ray 01. What do you think of all this? And hope to see you fighting Brawl online. Yeah, no downloadable content for Brawl, unfortunately. And yes, they had already chosen which characters they were going to include in Brawl, with the exception of Sonic, on July 7th, 2005. And I'm a little disappointed by it all, but I hope for the future. And you should too. Alright, next email. I was wondering if you had heard anything about when Brawl will be released in Europe. At that Nintendo conference when you went to, or just any rumors about its release, like possible dates and or by what month it might be released. And that's from Chris. Sorry, Chris. I've only heard rumors of summer 2008 for Europe. The next one says, hello, my name is Vincent, but I go by Vince. Hi, Vince. I was wondering if there's any way for me to register at your website. If I do I have to pay anything? And no, there is no registration nor paying at my webpage. All you have to do is put in your name, some name, it doesn't have to be a real name, your email address, and leave a comment. And if I ever get around to making a forum, registration will of course be required for that, but never for the site. And no, the site is free forever and always. Our next email comes from Foxfire19. Hey, I'm Foxfire19. You obviously don't know me, but that is why I am emailing you. First off, I love the podcast, and I'm not concerned about them being right on time. I have a lot of patience for Brawl. I have to have a lot of patience for Brawl, and I understand that you are busy. You have no idea how great it is when I found your site. It looks great, by the way. For a while, I thought I was a dying breed. Many of the sites I visited had a rather cold and sometimes harsh tone towards Krystal, but now I know I'm not alone. I'm considered strange at school because I like so many on your site, and you too, I think, and am writing a Star Fox story. I am not near done, but it looks to be somewhere around 200 pages. I also have a lot of drawings of Krystal. I don't think I will be posting many of them because they are from back when I couldn't draw. Now though, I'm beginning to make drawings that are turning out quite nicely. Oh, and do you know what program artists use to digitize their art? Like what Tails Rules uses? If you know, that'd be great. Anyway, you mentioned in one of your podcasts that there was a code to switch Fox's and Krystal's models in Star Fox Adventures. I've looked for it on YouTube, but I think the link was dead. I have a GameCube, Star Fox Adventures 1.1, and Action Replay, and I'd like to try it out. If you have a link, that'd be great, and if not, that's okay too. Good luck with college. I hope you can catch up on all your schoolworks. This email probably doesn't help too much. Anyway, keep up the good work. Well, thanks so much for your email, Foxfire19. I love hearing from fans like you. And I'm glad you found a place that you were looking for where you can be kind of at home with people of like-minded interest. I believe most artists use Photoshop and perhaps Illustrator for their digitization. And GIMP is a open source Photoshop-like program, and that might be suitable if you don't want to pay $700 or whatever for Photoshop. I provided him with the video link and description for the hack, and it still works, so let me know how that turns out, Foxfire. So Foxfire emailed me back and said, "Hey, it's me again, and I was just wondering, what do you think happened? Krystal was a very popular choice for Brawl, and the least they could have done was make her an assist trophy. It seems almost as if they blew us off. I would much rather have had Krystal than like Olimar. He sucks. Anyway, I'm trying out that code for Adventures, and I'll let you know how it goes." Well, and I said it could have been a rights issue, but I doubt it. And since then, I found out it wasn't a rights issue. Perhaps she was simply overlooked, since they decided to own characters a long time ago. Hold out for hope on the next game. Our next question, or our next email, comes from Z-Wolf. Do you have any information on what Krystal's markings on her arms and thighs mean, or how she got them? Is it possibly another plot hole? Most likely, though, I'm sure it has something to do with Serenia, so it would help if I knew something about it for my story. Thanks, Z-Wolf. As far as I know, they are simply added to give graphical complexity to her, perhaps to aid the tribal look she has. They appear to have no real significance at this time. I'm sure they're related to Serenia in some way, but we know nothing about Serenia except that it was destroyed. Next question, or email. I was wondering why nobody started a petition to put Krystal in Brawl for the next Smash Bros. Game. I'm sorry, not in Brawl, for the next Smash Bros. Game, since she's not playable in Brawl. If we start early, it's likely to grow large enough over time, and when they announce the next game, we'll already have a ton of signatures, or perhaps send it to them in a year regardless. I figure that if any site would host the petition, it would be the Krystal Archive. What do you think? And that's from Arch. Well, I'm planning one, Arch. As I mentioned earlier, I'm in the planning stages of one. I won't have time to get it up and running, and for a couple weeks at least, but I will have something up by summer, which would be plenty of time before the next Smash game, which should be about 4 or 5 years from now. So that's all the questions I had. It was a lot. So if you have any questions, comments, threats, well, no, not threats, but if you want to say anything to me directly, personally, or if you want to say something that you want to hear on the podcast, as long as it's appropriate and relevant, I'll read it on the air, no problem. And if you want to send me an audio clip, that'd be great too. Send all those things to my new email address, mrkrystal@gmail.com. And now, folks, the moment you've all been waiting for, the interview, or at least half of the interview, with Alesia Glidewell, the voice of Krystal in Star Fox Assault and Super Smash Bros. Brawl. Enjoy. Hello, I'm Dwight.
And I'm Alesia Glidewell.
And tell us a little bit about yourself, Alesia.
Well, I'm a voiceover actress and filmmaker, and I was the voice of Krystal in Star Fox Assault and in Super Smash Brothers, and as well as Knuckle Joe and Zero Suit Samus. and I've been doing voiceover for about 5 years now.
Mhm.
And I'm originally from Hawaii, but I've moved around a lot my whole life. I'm a company brat. I've lived in Mexico, Saudi Arabia, Peru, Brazil, New Jersey, Alabama, California, Florida, kind of all over. And I love playing video games, but I don't let myself play them too often because I get kind of addicted. I guess that's about it for an intro.
That's fine. So how did you first become involved with voice acting?
Well, there was one incident actually when I was 12 years old and I was living in Florida and doing some kind of acting and modeling and stuff like that during high school. And I just happened to get a voiceover job through my acting agent. And I went in there and the only line I had to say was, "Hi, Dad." And it took me about not even 10 minutes in and out, and they paid me like $400, and I was so excited, and I walked out and said, "I want to do this for a living. It's the coolest thing in the whole world. I should totally do that." And then I forgot all about that and never did anything related to acting or voiceover again for a long time. And then sometime after college, I was living in Seattle and started doing acting and said, "Oh, I remember that voiceover thing. I should totally get into that." So I started taking classes and kind of spiraled from there.
In college, what was your major?
Cultural anthropology. I started out for chemistry, but then I switched over to cultural anthropology. It was a lot easier and more fun for me.
So how did you get involved for voice acting for Star Fox specifically?
It was just another audition, basically. I went over to Bad Animals and did an audition, left, and I may have gone to a callback as well, where you go back in and you basically just audition a second time and they give you a little bit more direction. And then I got the call saying, "You got the job."
So who is Bad Animal?
Bad Animals is a audio production studio here in Seattle that does a lot of recording of commercials and games and stuff like that.
Okay, so Nintendo contracted them to find someone for the game?
Not necessarily. I think basically Nintendo may have either gone through a production company or contacted my agent as well as other agents in town directly and asked them to send people over to Bad Animals to record auditions. A lot of times you record auditions from home, but in that instance they wanted us to go over to the studio and do the auditions there. So.
Okay. So you've done a lot of voice acting for video games. How is that voice acting different from other types of acting? And specifically other types of voice acting, like for a commercial or something?
Well, commercials are usually a lot quicker because you go in there and it's a 30-second spot or a 60-second spot, and it's a lot more kind of real commercial voices, very happy and the real girl next door and stuff like that. And you just go in there, and sometimes I'm in and out within 15 minutes, and it's pretty easy. With video games, it's a lot more intense. It's a lot harder on your voice too, because you have to do a lot of different scenarios as if you're actually in the battle or in the game and you're running around. And so I think there's a lot more movement and it takes a lot more time. And especially if you have a character, you have to kind of figure out what that character is first, nail that voice in, and then you get to go and do a million different scenarios with that voice. So with the video games, it's definitely just, longer, more intense, a lot more movement, a lot more active. It's fun. Yeah.
Awesome. So how do you come up with different types of voices?
Well, me personally, I just play around with my friends and watch television and cartoons and try to imitate what I can and joke around and make up voices in my car, talk to myself a lot, that kind of thing. The only bummer part of it is that since I became a professional voiceover actor, when I joke around with even friends, I get kind of almost criticized more because they're like, "Oh, you're not doing that accent perfectly, and you're supposed to be a professional, so it has to sound like a proper Irish or this or that."
But
and
were
I'm
you
like,
even
just
trying? You weren't even trying to.
No, because I always mix up things and just kind of joke around. So that's the fun of it.
What are some of the other video game characters you've done voice work for?
I did Sly Cooper too. So I just blanked out on the name of the character.
Carmelita, I believe.
Carmelita Fox.
Yes.
Yeah, she was a fox. Yeah, Carmelita Fox.
I think so.
Mm-hmm. For Sly Cooper 2, and then I'm just blanking out, but I did Left 4 Dead recently for Valve, and that's going to come out soon. That I did the voice for the main character in that, Zoe.
Okay, is that the person you couldn't talk about when I had done the text interview back? Okay.
Yeah.
That's there was a big debate about whether you're talking about Krystal at the time for Smash Brothers or maybe it was Zero Suit Samus. I just didn't know.
Yeah.
So it was for Valve.
Mm-hmm. Yep, and then I've done minor voice characters for the Matrix Online game and a game for Axe deodorant called Mojo Master where I got to play all these different girl voices.
Wow.
Yeah, I think that's about it. I can't think of any more at the moment, but.
So who was your favorite character to voice?
I had a lot of fun with Krystal, and I had a lot of fun with... actually, all of them were really, really fun to do.
Mm-hmm.
I think Krystal was fun because, I don't get to use an accent that often. I had a lot of fun with Knuckle Joe just because I usually get... I wouldn't necessarily say typecast, but because I'm a girl, I do more girl voices. But
Sure.
It was a lot of fun to do Knuckle Joe because it was so totally different from my other stuff. I really enjoyed doing Zoe for Left 4 Dead because there's a lot of screaming and a lot of fighting and stuff like that. So,
forgive my ignorance. What is that game mostly about?
It looks really cool. It's kind of a co-op game where you have to help each other out when you're hurt.
So is it like a team-based shooter then?
Mm-hmm. It's kind of... There are all sorts of different monsters and witches and infected people, and I don't know enough about the game to really say.
Okay.
So, but there are 4 characters, 3 guys and a girl, and when it gets down to it, you have to help each other out to survive.
Cool.
So it's pretty cool. Yeah.
So what kind of reference material did you use when you were deciding for your voice for Krystal? Or did you have any?
I really didn't have any reference material. When I went to the audition, they just said, try a couple different things, maybe an accent. And I just threw out what I had on the top of my head and tried it.
And they told you what they liked?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Cool. So what was their description? What were they looking for? And did they tell you about the character when you were doing the voice?
Yeah, they did tell me. They gave me a sketch of what the character looked like, and then they had told me that... I think they had told me at the time that she hadn't been voiced before, or that there hadn't been a girl character in the game previously. Something like that.
Kind of.
Okay.
There was never there was one girl character before, but she's a non-playable character who only appeared a couple of times, and then there were 2 other girl characters who appeared in a game that never came out.
Okay.
It was the most complete unreleased game in history. So,
awesome.
I guess
it was the first time Krystal had been voiced.
Well, not exactly. No.
Oh, okay.
There was adventures.
So I guess I don't know at all.
There was Estelle Ellis did her voice in Adventures, and then of course you did her in Assault, and then Brawl. And those are the only 3 games she's been in so far. Except Command, but that doesn't have voice acting. I don't know.
And the one
Maybe
in
they were
Adventure,
being
was
inaccurate.
that kind of an English accent as well?
It was a very English accent.
Oh, very interesting. Oh, okay. Yeah, so maybe they did tell me at the time that she was supposed to have an English accent of a sort, but I hadn't actually ever practiced a real British accent before, so... I think it's pretty funny because I ended up taking a dialect class recently and realized all my mistakes in the English, in my dialect and all these things. I'm like, oh, if I could just, fix that word, or I'm so much better now, and that kind of thing. But I kind of like the mixture actually that Krystal has that came out of me at the time because of me not knowing how to do it perfectly or
and
whatever.
You added some of that knowledge for the Brawl.
Maybe a little bit. That's possibly why
It does
it
sound a
sounds
little different.
little bit different. I don't know, because I think before my British was a little bit more of a mixture between kind of a Cockney and a upper class, and now I can separate the two a little better, so I don't know.
Wow.
Yeah.
That you can actually distinguish them is pretty impressive.
A bit, yeah.
So where did you do the recording? Like, I know you said you did it in Bad Animal, but when you knew you were going to work for as the voice actress for Krystal, were you like inside Nintendo's headquarters, or do they have a separate studio somewhere?
No, we did all the recording at Bad Animals.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Cool. So they gave you a sketch, like literally a sketch of the character?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, basically a drawing with her name underneath. Yeah.
Cool. Was it
They did
colored
give
and
me a
everything?
description. I don't remember if it had color. It may have just been a black and white printout from the printer, but it did have a description of who she was.
What did it say about her description?
I don't know. I wish I could remember. No.
Nothing? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
It was a long time ago.
Yeah, it was.
So
it's been a couple of years or longer now. 3 years maybe?
At least 3 years.
Yeah.
So did you get to meet any of the other voice actors while you were recording this game?
I did work with Fox, with Star Fox, and he was really cool and super professional and has been doing it for a long time. I was a little intimidated.
So were you like in the same recording room?
I did, yeah.
So you were literally talking back and forth?
Some of it. Most of it I was alone, but there were a couple of patches that we had overlap, so we recorded together. So, and that was even more fun because you have another actor to play off of, and
you don't have to make everything up.
Yeah. Yeah, like in Sly Cooper, I was playing a couple of different characters and we were back and forth between each other, so I was talking to myself. Mm-hmm. And that's a little harder to do than talking to another real person.
I think you were Carmelita and there was one
Nayla.
other. Oh, okay.
Nayla, yeah.
Okay, so now on to Brawl. A few months ago, something appeared on your website saying that what you were voicing for Brawl, and then it was promptly removed a couple of days later. So what happened there?
I just basically got reminded of my NDA and had to take it off.
No, but why did you did you just forget, like when you were posting it originally?
Well, I didn't realize, because usually when you do a game, it's not a big deal, the characters.
Uh-huh.
I mean, I had never known that was a big deal.
Oh.
So I thought the NDA was more specific towards, what you did or what you said or that kind of thing, but not just that you acted in a game and did a character. I guess,
Because
it was just total
Smash
ignorance
is
on my part.
really like super secretive type thing, right?
Yeah, total ignorance on my part. I had no idea it was that secretive. I didn't really know that it was that big a deal. I felt so bad.
Yeah.
I just didn't realize it at all.
It was a pretty big thing when it did happen.
Yeah, hopefully it was, at least, I don't know, got more interest in the game or something at least, versus it being a really bad thing.
It spawned a whole bunch of talk, I'll say, because then people were like, well, we know she's in there now, but then what does that mean? Is she a non-playable character or what? And
yeah.
So.
Well, it did make me realize how popular the game was and how much interest there was. I had no idea prior to that. So.
Did a lot of people, besides me, contact you with about everything?
Yes, I got a lot of emails saying, I promise I won't tell anyone, just tell me.
Oh, wow.
I got a lot of those, so yeah.
Cool. So how do you feel about Krystal not being a playable character?
Oh, I have to admit I was a little bummed. I mean, she's a cool character. She'd be really fun with her own moves and her own assist trophies, and, I bet she'd be pretty fun to play. Play in the game as well as the voice,
Oh, yeah?
So, yeah.
Okay, so now that you've seen Panther in Brawl, can you tell me what's your impression of him?
Well, it did jog my memory as to what they were telling me when we were recording it. Mm-hmm. That he was very, very much into Krystal, and that he was, always flirting with her and saying these deep romantic things, and that she didn't necessarily take him seriously, but at the same time she was never really rude to him or completely sarcastic back. It was kind of this weird fine line that they told me about, like, you know, you don't want to be too rude or sarcastic or negative, but you're also kind of slightly flirting back. It was kind of a weird double thing going on there.
So in Brawl, when they were giving you the descriptions, were they sort of like out of context? Did you get to see the other voice actors at the time?
When I did Brawl, I was completely alone. And I basically kind of had it all, you know, down a list, so it was definitely out of context, but they were really good at, before I did each line, giving me a little bit of background and context right before I did the line. Mm-hmm. So like with the Panther stuff, they'd tell me, so Panther's this guy and he's like this, or, you know, and you know, the feel for each line and that kind of thing. But it's hard to do things out of context, so it was a little bit maybe not right on all the time.
So so they told you to be sort of like half sarcastic, but not at the same time. That's pretty much what we saw. It seemed sort of sarcastic, but at the same time not. So that's confirmed. All right, the next, going on to the next thing here. Okay, so what do you think of Brawl now that you've played it?
Wow, I think it's pretty cool. The first thing I thought of two things I thought of that were really cool was, one, it reminded me of Donkey Kong, which I really enjoyed
like the
years
original
ago.
Donkey
Yeah,
Kong?
the original Donkey Kong. And then the other thing was just that it was kind of the first time I've ever seen like a real cool fighting game where you were on moving platforms and had all these really cool different things, and you can fall off the platforms, and you know, just all the different backgrounds and all the different characters. And I like setting the time too for how long it's going to last if you do the Brawl, and all those assist trophies, and it's really unique. That was really fun.
Now that we all know that Krystal is not a playable character in Brawl, would you support Krystal for the next Smash Brothers game?
Of course, I would love that. That'd be so fun.
Kind of a loaded question, I'm sorry. When you were recording for Brawl, was it where was it this time? Was it also at Bad Animal, or was it somewhere else?
Yep, it was also at Bad Animals.
So you didn't get to hear anything behind the scenes besides the character descriptions that they gave you?
Yep, that's pretty much it. I know, yeah. And this one, they didn't actually have any video for me to look at or anything done
Nothing
yet,
at all.
So,
they were even being secretive to the voice actors.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
They had, you know, they said, "Remember Krystal?"
And you
can you do it
had
again?
a tough time.
Yeah. So,
has your opinion of Krystal changed since you were doing Brawl?
well, I guess I feel like I understand the character a little bit better. Mm-hmm. A lot of time had passed before they called me up for Brawl, so I hadn't really thought about Krystal in a while, and it was really fun kind of getting to know her. For some weird reason, I feel like she's stronger, too. Something about Brawl and everything. Even though she didn't get to be a playable character, there's something really even more dynamic about her, and more like, maybe I just got to know her better. I don't know.
That's
Even
cool.
though there wasn't as many lines, it
so
still felt...
What do you think about Krystal as a character?
I think she'd be a really...
I mean, just in general, not related to
yeah.
Brawl.
I think she's a very interesting character because she not only has the kind of... she's strong, she's the first person that would jump into a fight, and she's, you know, doesn't let her fear get in the way. But she's also extremely, like, supportive and wants everyone else to do really well, and she's, you know, she's always backing up Fox, and she, you know, she's a real team player at the same time, even though she's, like, not afraid to jump in and do it. But she's also kind of sexy and has this whole, like, flirtatious thing going on with Fox and Panther and all that stuff, so, you know, she's definitely not just a one-dimensional character in any way, and that's what I like, you know.
Yeah. Do you remember that from the from Assault? Like, is all that description, is that from what they gave you in Assault, or the actual lines?
Yeah. Assault had a lot more like I think just because of the fact that the majority of the stuff for Assault was a lot more action, like in the middle of the game and action.
Yeah.
There's a little bit less maybe commentary or less delving into her character as much, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah.
There was that.
It certainly
for sure,
did give more of a. It did let us get to see some of her more so than say in Brawl, because it's only a couple lines versus a lot of lines.
More to see how she really is, not what she thinks about things, kind of thing. Mm-hmm. It's like when you're actually in the action, what do you do? What do you like? How do you react to things? You got to see that a lot more in Assault.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we were all kind of disappointed when she was not a playable character except at the very beginning in Adventures, even.
Oh, really?
Because the original game that it came from, Dinosaur Planet, the character Krystal was like a young cat character, but you could play as that character for half of the game, and the other half would be a fox-like character named Saber. So, yeah, it was great that we get to see more of her in that game.
Yeah.
Okay, so if there's one thing you could change about Krystal, what would it be?
Well, I hate to be repetitive because I wrote this in the writing one, but I just, I want to see more of her. I want to get to know her more. I want to, have her be in the action more, succeed and fail and fight and, kind of do a lot more things.
Well, there's a heavily rumored game coming out for the Wii, which hopefully we should see something about this summer called Star Fox Wii, or whatever they're going to call it. I guess if they already talked to you about this, you can't even hint that you know, but yeah, if it comes out, it'll most likely involve Krystal in some way. Hopefully more so than Assault. So, what do you think about the size of the Krystal fan community? There's several websites and forums related to her. What do you think about all that?
I think it's awesome. I'm just really excited to see it, but I was completely shocked when I first saw it because I had no idea. I think it's really great that there's fans for the main female character in a game, especially because a lot of these action fighting games and piloting to have a lot more guy characters. So it's really awesome that there's a lot of people out there who like Krystal's character and enjoy her in the games. So it's pretty cool.
So can I get you to do a couple lines in various character voices? Like I've had a request for Caramelita Fox and of course Krystal, and that's my request if possible. And maybe some other ones that I don't know about, and possibly even things that are not specifically related to a character, like you did those voice samples on your website. So, I know you are capable of a huge range of different types of voices.
I just need to think of what to say. I'm trying to remember something maybe that Krystal said.
Do you want me to I can bring up a script of something to say? Okay,
that'd be
let
awesome.
me bring that up right now.
All right.
Let's see. Hey, Slippy, don't be... That's the only time you ever sounded mean.
It's funny because, I don't remember saying that word.
Yeah. So,
let's see. They're quite dedicated for a bunch of hired guns. I remember that.
Yeah.
Let me see. Hey, Slippy, don't get cocky.
That's really good. Let's see. Let me pull down further in the game. Let's see.
Fantastic.
Fantastic.
Fantastic. Fantastic.
Again.
By yourself. It's too dangerous. I'm going too. I remember that one.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Let's see. Oh.
Must have been a weak point.
Yeah.
Everything does.
It must have.
Oh, it must have a weak point. Yeah.
Everything does. Mm-hmm. There's one particular line that people want to see.
There's one line that I do remember saying can't instead of can't. Or something, and I think it's actually supposed to be can't, not can't.
Well, I can't find can't.
I think it was from Assault, actually.
This is...
Oh, this is... I don't know.
Maybe it was wouldn't, or something?
No, it was definitely can't was the line, and I was like, did I say that right? And I just remember hearing it going,
I can't
"That's weird."
see.
And there's a line with tail or trail in it that I just
There's an
remember.
enemy on my tail?
Yes, and I remember going, God, did I say that really weird? Oh no, I'm afraid to say that line. Fox, I've got enemies on my tail. Yeah, because there was that part on my tail. It was like, it came out southern or something weird, and I just remember having a hard time with it and going, good gracious, what am I doing? It was really funny.
Let's see, where is this? This is Sargasso.
I like that name, Sargasso.
That's fun. Looking good, Fox.
Looking good, Fox.
Climate controls here. No, I really want Sauria.
Was the Aperoid Queen from this one then? Also?
Yes, the Aperoid Queen. And you were the voice actress for Aperoid Queen, weren't you?
Yeah, I remember. I was trying to remember what that voice was, and I...
Well, I know it was heavily
Altered,
synthesized.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
So, do you remember it all? Like,
I think it was just a strict monotone, like, robot kind of, or, just like very monotone robot-y thing or something. I don't recall. But they did say they were going to mess with it.
It turned out to be a really high-pitched.
Oh, really?
Interesting. I've got sound clips, video. Let's bring it up real quick. Let's see. It must be here.
Take this!
When was it saying something?
I don't know.
Really? I'm not sure, but... Something's wrong, Fox.
That was a hard
She's
one.
she's a psychic too, so
Right.
she can tell when.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So yeah, it's really
Wow.
monotone.
Yeah. That's my corporate video voice, I use all the time.
Corporate video?
I do tons of corporate video where I have
But-
to do
but
highly technical voices, like
Oh, highly technical voice.
words, not voices, but just like, you talk about, I don't know, things, medical terms and things, and you have to spout them off really quickly, teaching
Wow.
kids,
Okay, you remember this one?
I'm not sure, but I sense cries of agony. Agony.
Agony.
Ah.
That's okay. Let's see.
I bet Tricky's grown. You did it, Fox! Wait, Fox! We have to take care of this! Oh, I'm terrible!
That's fine. That's good.
It's so funny. Sauria.
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 Well, actually,
Sauria.
you did pronounce it Sauria.
Did I say Sauria?
Yeah.
Sauria should be safe for a long time to come. Fox!
And she laughed a lot.
She did.
This was that really awkward moment. Or did they tell you about that?
Awkward moment with Tricky?
Yeah, he said, I appreciate like, you're the leader here. Okay, I'll stay here, right? You can take care of things, and you two can come back on your honeymoon. And he's like, we're not yet,
Oh, that's funny.
like, not yet. And Krystal starts laughing.
Oh, that's funny. I don't remember that one. That's
Well, they used the same, they had you laugh, I know.
Right, so
But
they
they used
probably
the
used the
same
same
laugh multiple times.
Really? I gave them a lot of different laughs. so
Really?
I think
Well, I know they,
they could be too different too, so you never know.
it's hard to tell, I guess. So cool, that's Krystal's voice. I don't know what would be Carmelita.
Yeah,
I could look up a video real quick.
I think it was just kind of a regular voice. I can't remember.
I think it was actually a little bit British, too.
No, Nayla was a little bit British. Nayla was definitely a little
Rita.
British.
How do you spell that? Let's see.
ITA. Carmelita el Fox. No. That would have been a little different.
Do.
That's not me.
That must not be the second one. Oop. Slide
I think it's possible that
2.
that she originally had an accent because her name is Carmelita, so maybe she did have like a bit of a Spanish or Latina accent to begin with, and then with me it didn't. I could have done one if I had worked on it, if I had some time. But
oh well.
No, I think she definitely had kind of a regular voice. Nayla definitely had a bit of a British accent.
Do you remember any of her lines?
Nayla.
Let's see. Sly.
Check my website. I might have some of the
To
clips or.
No. All right. Where yours is?
AlesiaGlidewell.com.
It's Alesia.
It's actually pronounced Alesia.
Alesia. Okay.
Like a Z. Alesia Glidewell.com.
For this whole time, I've been pronouncing your name Alesia, and I've been wondering, well, maybe it's Alicia? No, wait, that can't be right.
That's okay. Everybody does it. And my grandfather used to call me Alesia.
Alesia, then. Alesia? Yeah. Yeah.
Yep,
Okay, so...
Go up, down, sorry, video games.
Oops. Okay, video games.
Do I have Sly Cooper? If you click on that, I might have something.
Sucker Punch Studios, who are the makers of that game. They're coming to talk at DigiPen in a couple weeks. Yeah.
No, it doesn't look like there are any clips.
Just your
did the link to
clip.
it. Oh.
Yeah, you have a clip up there for all these different voices, which is
I do?
Yeah. Oh, well, you did. Wait, it's sorry. No. It was there. I know it was.
What was the clip of?
It was just you just quickly switched from a Latina voice to a British type voice to like
it might have been my demo, yeah.
Yeah, it was a demo clip, but it doesn't appear to be working.
Ortega tacos and stuff like that, yeah. That's funny.
Let's see. Well, let me real quick. I wish I had thought to get some clips. Who's Chocula? Clockula?
Clockula. Yeah, that was another kind of like the Aproid Queen, where you do something that's a little bit monotone or whatever, and yeah.
Okay, well.
Yeah.
We'll just end that there then, I guess.
Yeah, the stuff for Mojo Master was very
Oh, he's on there? Mojo Master. Yeah, it is.
You can actually download the game. It's pretty funny. It's about like teaching guys who don't have experience picking up women how to pick up women in bars, and basically every single line was like putting them down. Like, you'll never get my number or whatever, like every single line was oh honey, move your eyes up here, look up here, like just, it was so funny.
That's terrible.
It was all very, very, what's the word I'm looking for? Flirtatious? I don't know, that's not the word, but.
Awkward?
Yeah, awkward.
Alright, so, let's see here. So you also did the voices for Knuckle Joe and Zero Suit Samus. So how are those characters different, especially since Zero Suit Samus is a playable character?
Yeah, I think how it happened was I originally auditioned for Zero Suit Samus. I did, yes. I remember getting a description and a drawing of Metroid, and then a drawing of a girl. And then, so I got both, I got both drawings, and then...
no, you got a picture of a Metroid or the suit?
The suit, and then also her without the suit.
Okay.
So I got those two drawings, and then I got a little description. I sent in an audition from home, and then heard about a week later that I got Zero Suit Samus, and then they said, oh, by the way... Not, oh, by the way, but it was more like... we'd also like you to do some things from Krystal. So I said, okay, that's awesome, great, I get to do Krystal again. And then after we finished recording Zero Suit Samus and Krystal was when they asked me, oh, do you think you want to try something else? We have this other character we haven't done yet, or we haven't recorded anything for.
Probably never had a voice before.
Right, his name is Knuckle Joe, he was with, on the Kirby game or something, and they said, you want to just throw something out there and give it a shot? And I was like, sure, because I was like, yay, it's not a girl voice.
So what did you do? So, like punch noises or? Yeah,
it was just more like, like running around and jumping and, just like kind of screechy little like, hiya, I'm gonna get ya, kind of like very whatever.
It sounds a
So-
lot like when I listened to it.
Yeah, I think that's probably just what they used. I mean, because we didn't do very much. It didn't take long at all. They just said, can you do something kind of high-pitched or screechy maybe? Or I was like, sure, I'll give it a shot.
It
was fun.
What was the description they gave for Zero Suit? Well, for Samus in general. Do you remember?
Well, I remember seeing the drawing of the girl and them telling me about the fact that, people hadn't seen her without the suit before or something like that. It was kind of a new thing. And just that, I wish I could remember a lot more description about her actual character other than that it was a kind of a fighter but a female at the same time.
Yeah.
Which makes me think about the fact that every single game I audition for voice-wise that is a girl that's in a fighting scenario, there's this fine line between, especially if you're yelling and you're in combat, there's a fine line between coming across as a total witch or and sounding kind of annoying versus sounding like a girl that's just in combat. And they're always trying to... Everyone I've ever worked with has tried to help me tweak that so that I don't come across that way. Because they do say that they get a lot of auditions and that it's really hard because, when girls are yelling and screaming at you in a fight, it kind of sounds annoying or something. I don't know. Yeah.
I guess it can.
I don't know. So it made me think about her because not that she yells a whole lot, but just that, you don't want to sound like you're overly sweet and feminine. You're not a princess in the middle of a fight. Well, they do have a princess, but
Wait, what do you mean?
Don't they have a princess character?
Oh, yeah, they do. They have two of them, Peach and Zelda. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but you can't quite sound like a prissy princess while you're fighting, but you also can't sound like
Especially not
a
Samus.
big, huge witch, evil, meanie, annoying person on a field. I don't know.
Fine line.
Yeah, fine line.
And that's where we had to end it, unfortunately. Well, not where we had to end it, but where we did end it by forcefully having the program remove our ability to record. So whenever I get a chance, we're going to get together again and record the rest of the interview. I've still got the questions ready and we know more now. We'll be able to answer the questions better, even better this time. So look forward to that and send any questions or comments you have to mrkrystal@gmail.com. I look forward to hearing you and also for the next podcast. So until then, I'll see you on the site. Good night.